Hi everyone! So as of today, the day that this video is being posted, we will have reached the 1-year anniversary of Bodo 13, the finale. And I just want to thank everyone for just all your kind words and support. You guys have been really nice. I've appreciated all of it. And I know I've been stalling on this video for a long time, especially because I've been working on the album and I've been doing a lot of stuff. Hopefully that'll be out soon, but you guys have been waiting long enough, especially with like all the speculation in regards to how Rook was not actually pictured in the episode. You guys came up with all these really interesting theories. You guys pointed out a lot of stuff that I kind of included in the episode to kind of allude to the inside job of Bodo. Obviously, I can't picture them all here, but these are just some of the ones I grabbed. And I've already explained this backstory in the second part of the post-Bodo finale stream. This is the video I promised I would do. Sorry, it's a whole year after, but hey, better late than never, I assumed. So yeah, I figured we'd just jump right into things. This is the Rook explanation video. I know I've called him Chess Piece in the past, but for continuity's sake, we're just gonna call him Rook. So yes, let's get right into it. So if it wasn't obvious before, the Brawl of the Objects that we know today is not the very first Brawl of the Objects in canon, because there was in fact a medieval Brawl of the Objects. Control even alludes to this as early on as episode 2.
No way! You act like you've never played Brawl of the Objects before. We do it every time.
If we look at the scene where Control is being interviewed at the start of episode 13, he goes into a more in-depth explanation of the original Brawl of the Objects.
Brawl of the Objects is a show I created based on the original game English settlers made when they first arrived in Canada. Originally, the monarchs would have their servants compete to win freedom from their duties.
So, as you can imagine, Rook was one of these servants. Dreamworld in and of itself was a pseudo-fabrication of everything he was used to, so really the whole world was just kind of blank aside from the castle where he just spends all of his time. To add on to it, his behaviors reflect those of a servant, what with him catering to especially Scissors, who he believes is Miss Shears, who is supposed to be like the medieval princess he catered to in the past. So it's instinctual for him to tend to Scissors and her needs all the time, because that's just his job. He mainly behaves this way to maintain some form of normalcy while he's trapped in Dreamworld. Of course, because he was one of the servants, he competed in the original Brawl of the Objects. And we can see, especially in episode 12, how Brawl of the Objects has negatively affected him in the present. And then after the flashback, he alludes that he even made it to the final 2 of the original Brawl of the Objects.
Scissors! You and I can be the last servants, and Big Orange Chicken can be the king! What? Your royalty! Please give us our final challenge, come on!
And at the start of episode 13, Control also describes the legend of how the medieval finale went wrong.
The game, however, was said to be cursed, because in the old finale, one finalist died before finishing, and the other vanished without a trace.
So hopefully it's not too complicated so far, but in short, Rook made it to the finale of the original Brawl of the Objects and competed in the same race as the modern Bodo finalists did, because the modern one was based off of the old one. We're gonna get to that later. This is important though, since the medieval finale had a great effect on the outcome of the modern one. That being said, I'm sure you guys want to know how the race went specifically, so let's go into it. In the old finale, Rook's opponent gets an unfair advantage during the lake run, and Rook can't catch up. Does that sound familiar? Control explains that the race going wrong had to do with the lake being frozen during the winter.
Originally, this challenge was done during the winter, but for safety reasons, we're doing it while it's not as cold.
But why? Well, as Control states, the lake was frozen. Rook tries to take a shortcut by breaking through the surface of the ice, diving in,
What? Oh my gosh!
and swimming underneath to avoid being caught by anybody on the surface, because that ice is thick. Of course, though, he could only hold his breath and swim for so long, so when he tried to swim back up after having swam a long distance, the surface of the lake was too thick for him to break through, so very quickly Rook realized he was trapped, and he couldn't save himself, so he ended up drowning. If you guys caught the text at the bottom of the episode 13 newscast, the bottom of the Brawl of the Objects lake is supposed to be perpetually frozen. So when Rook sinks to the bottom, he freezes underwater and he's lost for years. Of course, Rook isn't forgiving himself anytime soon for messing up like that, so he at least tries to convince himself while he's in the dream world that he should have been the rightful winner by taking the shortcut.
See? It was me! I knew the shortcut, you see! I won! It's all over! It was me!
Now, here's something I don't think anybody's caught. In Rook's flashback in episode 12, you see a little scene that looks pretty much identical to the Brawl of the Objects finale, that in and of itself being a huge hint that he made it to the final 2. But take a look at the nervous face he makes while he's in the finale. Now, if we go to the modern Brawl of the Objects, we can see that Shieldy does the exact same face. This was intentional. Basically, in the modern Brawl of the Objects finale, Shieldy is walking in the footsteps of Rook, like he's basically fulfilling a prophecy that Rook set up. Shelly, of course, is walking in the footsteps of Rook's opponent, but we're gonna get to that soon. While Controlly keeps the rules of the race historically accurate, he interferes with the prophecy Rook set up for Shieldy by hosting the race during the summer rather than the winter. This prevents Shieldy from cutting through the lake since he would get caught without the frozen surface of the lake to hide him. Shieldy was basically destined to get that same idea.
Was that Shelly? Oh no, now I'll never catch up to her. I wish I could just cross the lake without being seen. Then I'd win. Who am I kidding? That won't work.
Again, he basically mimics everything that Rook did up to that point. So that pretty much sums up Rook's backstory and its effects on Shieldy, but what about Rook's opponent and the effect of their game on Shelly? Well, just like Shelly, their brain imploded upon reaching the finish line. Of course, since these are medieval times, they didn't have the tech to recover dead contestants, so Rook's competition died permanently. But even without this prior knowledge, maybe Shelly's brain imploding shouldn't have been that unexpected. Take another look at episode 1. Remember going into Brawl of the Objects how Controlly gave this list of side effects? These side effects were noted based on the unusual symptoms that Rook's opponent experienced during the finale. And if we look closely throughout episode 13, Shelly basically walks in the footsteps of Rook's opponent. Throughout the episode, Shelly experiences nausea.
Yes!
Addiction to kittens.
Yes, Blue Kitten!
The heebie-jeebies.
Just thinking of this challenge is giving me the heebie-jeebies!
Death by mustache. Explosive diarrhea, but that wasn't depicted by Shelly, obviously. And of course, the last one, possible implosion of the brain. So historically, Shelly was destined to lose from the start. Knowing well that Shelly was going to lose and die, Controlly planted the recovery machine near the end of the race so that Shelly would land relatively close after she lost. That pretty much covers everything to do with Rook's past and its effect on the modern Brawl of the Objects. But what about Controlly? Because he definitely had some ulterior motives with Brawl of the Objects other than just hosting a fun game show.
By retracing the steps of the game, I hope to uncover where the missing contestant disappeared to.
So after finding out about the ancient Brawl of the Objects legend and the disappearance of Rook, Controlly dreams up an idea to host an identical game show and televise it, A, to make bank, and B, to get the attention for rediscovering Rook. Controlly proceeds to carefully plan out his game based on the old Brawl of the Objects legends, wanting to retrace the steps of the old version exactly so that it would lead him to Rook. Of course, Controlly could only get so far alone, so he had to hire someone to help him with his scheme.
Well, I keep this with me just in case of emergencies. Hold on a second, everyone. Hello?
Did anybody take note of Controlly's fishy business call in episode 12?
I don't have all the money just yet, but I promise you that soon...
Or that, directly after the call, only 5 of the 6 contestants up for elimination approached him to ask about the ceremony. Or even that Hot Dog in episode 13 created the Person Finder, a metal invention, when his inventions are normally made of wool? And that it says it was funded by Controlly? If you guys can see where I'm going with this, Controlly involved Hot Dog in his scheme to rediscover Rook. Between episodes 10 and 11, Controlly pays Hot Dog a large sum of money to craft some high-tech metal equipment to rediscover Rook's frozen body. Of course, with a conspiracy like this, Controlly is also giving Hot Dog hush money so that he doesn't reveal any details about Controlly's plot. Hence why, at the start of episode 13, Hot Dog is so reluctant to tell Pizza why he created the Person Finder in the first place.
Why would you need something like this? In case I lose you and I need to find you.
So with the Person Finder in hand, Controlly tracks down Rook's body, swims to the bottom of the lake, finds Rook, digs his body out in a block of ice, and shoves it into a freezer so it doesn't immediately melt on him. Of course, since Hot Dog is already familiar with Controlly's plan, he's totally unfazed when he finds Rook in the freezer in episode 11.
That's weird. Who puts the eggs in the freezer? Oh well.
Controlly only having brought out that freezer because it was a cooking episode. After the cooking challenge was out of the way, Controlly hides the same freezer, with both eggs and Rook inside, in the forest around the lake.
Oh, earlier I found a freezer hidden near the lake, so I borrowed a few from there.
With the freezer safely hidden in the forest, Controlly planned to take the frozen Rook out once the finale was over and the cameras were off of him. He would create a buzz in the news and pretend that he found Rook by himself, telling the world that his plan to retrace the steps of Bodo and find Rook was a success.
Finding the lost contestant would surely mark you down in history. How good are your chances of finding him, would you say?
Pretty good.
Controlly expects that the hype from allegedly rediscovering Rook by himself will make his career take off and hopefully lead to him getting bigger and better jobs as a show host. In short, Controlly's basically just being greedy and exploiting Rook so he can make an extra buck and, advance his career. And that's the tea. Also, one last thing just to close up any loose ends. Pinecone was the one who stole the golden ticket. Note how the box that Pinecone fit into in episode 3 is identical to the one that held the golden ticket in episode 13. And note at the start of the finale, Pinecone can be found on the bleachers, whereas at the end, Pinecone's disappeared. It's assumed that Pinecone slipped into the prize box, stole the ticket, and then used the ticket's wish to make himself taller. Of course, nobody noticed that Pinecone was doing this because everybody was so focused on the race.
Perhaps it was stolen.
By who?
I do not know. I was concentrating on the race.
So, what did you guys think about this little explanation? If you guys noticed any plot holes or anything I forgot, feel free to mention them to me. If I need to fix anything, I might just pin it in the comments or something. But yeah, that's it for now. I'm working on some other stuff right now, including the album, so hopefully I'll have that ready for you guys soon. But yeah, thank you guys for watching. Hope you guys are having a wonderful day, and I'll see y'all in the flip-flop, I guess. I don't know. Okay, bye.